Hi, and welcome to our wedding. Today is November the 22nd, 2008. I only really wanted to point out the date just because, although it's our wedding day today, we've actually been married since way back in 2005. And here are some cool photos from the registry ceremony that we had then. Here's us after we just got married. Yay! And here's one where we look pretty cool, but not as cool as if we dressed up as a pirate and a ninja. I'm not too sure why I think of that when I look at that photo. And here's one where we're just signing the... You know, if we really were dressed up as a pirate and a ninja, we'd probably need a parrot. Anyway, here's where we're just signed the registry. And Shivs is looking really, really happy and really good, but check out my face. Pure panic. Anyway, I'll tell you a little bit more about that day in a little bit. But just 1 year before that day, this is where we met, and by the looks of it, you can tell it's the kind of classy establishment where you'd meet your future wife. I think the fact that the T on the neon sign doesn't work is a real tip-off. I would make that the J-bar. But although that makes it sound like a kind of one night out in town pickup story, it's actually not. We spoke for the first time at the J-bar, but we crossed paths many times before that, right here on Kelburn Parade, between the Department of Film and Theatre where I was working and the Science Department where Shivali was studying. See, both of us spent way too much time at university. She always wanted to be called a doctor so that in case anyone ever asked her, is there a doctor in the house, she could jump up and say yes, even though I've explained to her a scientist is not the same as a medical doctor. And I wanted to have enough letters after my name to spell out B.A. Baracus. Mr. T from the A-Team. But it was somewhere in the middle when we were both studying marketing that glances were exchanged, which is kind of funny for us because if you know us, you know our vision without our glasses is awful. I mean, this is what we'd really look like with our glasses off, which means I look like this and she looks like this, and that's totally hot. Anyway, I remember I was walking one day and I think I'd just given a class and I was listening to Public Enemy's Music and Our Message, which is the best album ever. And I looked up, and there she was. Give it up, give it up, give it up, yo! Give it up, give it up, gotta give it up! Now, this wasn't unprecedented. We'd crossed paths many times before, and just a few weeks earlier, I told Andrew about this really cute girl I'd kept seeing around, and how one day I was just going to stop her and say hi, even though I had nothing really to say, which is sort of what a stalker does. And in the perfect world, I would have said the most charming line a la Hugh Grant in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and she would have been totally into me. But instead, I just piked and walked away, which kind of reminded me of what it felt like to be 15 years old again. So when I saw her 2 weeks later walking into J-Bar, I followed her in, again, kind of like a stalker does. But here's the kicker. I never got to say anything, and it wasn't me who said hi to begin with. Because the second I sat down, she barreled across the entire bar, sat down next to me, put her cell phone on the table, and demanded I give her my number. True story. You see, about the same time I'd been telling Andrew about this girl, she was telling her mates about some guy she'd seen in marketing class for the last 5 years, and who she used to walk past on her way to the science department. And so, when she saw me standing in the bar, she decided it was about time she said something, probably because I hadn't said anything either. Kinda like a stalker does. And even though that was the first time we'd spoke, I think we both knew we were stuck with each other from now on. And with that, I want to say thank you again for joining us tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, could you please stand for the bride and groom, the two stalkers? And could you do us one favor, which is join us in a massive conga line? Seriously, it'll be totally cool. Thank you.